How do we make our friend 24F reevaluate her relationship with her fiance 29M? I truly do not know how to start writing this, and I seriously questioned whether I should even share it. I apologize in advance because this rant will be lengthy. A bit of background. I have known her, let's refer to her as Susie, for as long as I can remember, which is over 20 years now. Susie, myself, and two other girls grew up in the same neighborhood in Eastern Europe and have been friends since we were toddlers. There was a time when we didn't connect as much, which occurred when I and one other friend from this group moved to study in London. This left Susie with another friend, let's call her Nora, aged 23, in our hometown, while I and another friend, let's call her Mary, who is also 25, moved to the United Kingdom. After Mary and I moved to London, Susie and Nora remained in our hometown. In the last years of high school, Susie met a guy, let's call him Bob. He was nearly 5 years older than her, lived with his parents, did not possess a high school diploma, and was unemployed, as well as having type 1 diabetes. Not that this is particularly relevant, but it will matter later. During this time, Mary and I were adjusting to life in London, and we lost touch for a while. However, Susie had applied to study pharmacy in another city in the UK and was prepared to leave after graduation. And she did. She secured housing with financial assistance from her mother, and Bob accompanied her to England. Both of their parents covered their living expenses. One day, Susie's mother announced she would no longer be providing financial support and that Susie needed to find employment. She did, finding work in tax, which pays quite well. As far as we are aware, Bob was searching for a job during that time, but faced repeated rejections from various employers and did not secure stable employment. Susie later told me, though not necessarily the whole group because we were closer during childhood, that she wanted to quit school because balancing work and studies had become too challenging, and she had failed a few classes. These girls were like sisters to me, so I admit I became frustrated and said she should not even consider that. Nevertheless, she went through with it. Fine, she can always give it another try. However, what troubled me was that her dear Bob was likely encouraging her with, "Yeah, if it's too difficult, don't do it." I cannot fathom how one can support pursuing a pharmacy degree when their partner does not have a high school diploma. It angered me because she was exceptionally intelligent in school. She easily excelled and possessed a remarkably sharp mind. Subsequently, she alluded to the fact that Bob was applying for the same position she held in the same company. She casually mentioned assisting this man in his 20s with completing his job application to ensure he was accepted. Fortunately, I suppose, he obtained the job. Over the past 4 to 5 years, we have reconnected and talked daily via Messenger, and we can all sense that she is anxious. We have also inquired about it numerous times. I cannot describe it any other way, but she is constantly on edge and appears uneasy. She was never like that before meeting him. She and Bob have been together for 7 to 8 years at this point, and we have only seen them a couple of times. They relocated from one small town to another in the UK. They do not travel, have not established any local friendships, and do not own pets. At one point, Bob developed a habit involving dandelions, and they had to consciously decide to cut back on smoking it, as he spends most of his time on his computer playing video games. I know she would like to have a pet, but she mentioned that when we return home, who would take care of it? She once brought him to my previous apartment. She mentioned children and marriage. They weren't engaged at that time. Since it was a small flat, we went to the bathroom to talk on the floor, away from the men present, myself, Susie, and Nora. We plainly asked her if she was happy and if this was what she truly desired. She began sobbing uncontrollably, stating they felt lonely, to the point where we had to step outside the building. The crying did not cease, and I take responsibility for pushing her by saying, "Then why don't you move back if you're so miserable?" But what should one do in a situation where a dear friend is crying her heart out while insisting she is happy? Susie then stated that she did not want to return because they would not find jobs. It infuriates me that someone led her to believe she is inadequate, and since she worries he would be unemployed if they returned home, she is exerting her utmost effort for both of them. She implied that she does not allow him to go to the store alone for fear he might pick the wrong item. Since she does not joke much, we assumed she was quite serious. When they visit nearby towns, she takes charge of the planning, but she tries to defend him when we point that out. Susie's mother disapproved of him until he proposed, Susie disclosed. A little over a year after that incident, Bob proposed. The wedding is scheduled for the summer of 2025. She mentioned earlier that their parents would assist with the wedding expenses. It may be worth noting that she does not share the best relationship with her parents. Being an only child, I feel somewhat protective of her. Then, she dropped another surprising piece of news this Christmas. She purchased him a computer worth approximately $2,500. This was before the wedding. She also mentioned, "This wasn't spontaneous, we obviously planned it." Are you implying that you budgeted your money to afford his gift? Her gift did not even total £500. Also, her engagement ring is worth 3 times less than the gifts he requested. Not that it matters, but I wanted to provide context. Additionally, a computer is not a random purchase. It implies he had to provide links and indicate that he wanted that specific item. The very fact that they had to budget indicates this is not the right time for such a decision. I was driving home when I read this in the group chat. I had to stop and confirm I had read it correctly. And she is discussing marriage and children with this man. We joked and asked whether it might have been wiser to use that money for their honeymoon. She stated that for him, the computer was a better choice, so he selected that instead, resulting in no honeymoon. She also mentioned in a different conversation that they would not be purchasing luggage for their 2-week trip home to save money. Oh, and she is also gifting him a phone this month, which is only a couple of £100 as far as we know. But why is everything centered around him like he is a child? And when we call her out on it, she becomes defensive. There are numerous small details, but writing them all out would create a book. We observe her treating him like a child, saying, "Bob cannot have too much alcohol or else his sugar levels will rise," and then capturing photos of them drinking sodas and cocktails. We believe he should be the one taking care of himself. He is nearly 30 now. Instead, she worries for both of them constantly. She cares for him like a child, and personally, I think it stems from her desire for the same care, which she never received from anyone else. She seems to think that clinging to him is the best she can do, and that she deserves all the love she can muster. I asked her, after her emotional moment before the engagement, again, and she laughed off the question, which honestly is not a typical reaction. We believe this is merely a cohabitant she has grown accustomed to, thinking it is the best situation she can attain. He will never leave her. He will not find anyone better than her, even if he dreams of it. He somehow convinced a bright, beautiful young woman that Donald Trump is the best president. This might explain why she has not engaged in conversation with us for a week, as we hold differing opinions. It has gotten so extreme that she cannot tolerate any criticism, and I genuinely fear he might manipulate her into saying, "Oh, then cut them us out as well, sweetie, it's perfectly fine." Then she will have no one left. They are coming back to my country, I have moved back, soon for wedding fittings, etc. I also thoughtfully mentioned a prenuptial agreement, believing that if the wedding proceeds, at least she would not inherit his debt from any foolish decisions, like smoking. However, my comment was disregarded. He is not physically abusive, but this cannot be a normal, balanced relationship. She is stagnating with this man in another country, and we genuinely do not know how to awaken her from this trance. We are concerned for her well-being. We welcome any suggestions on how to kindly approach this situation and say, "Please, we want to help you. Just don't do this to yourself." Story 2. I, 29M, am worried about my girlfriend's 25F relationship with food and the impact it could have on her health long-term, our relationship, and our potential family. How can I approach this in the best way possible? Hi everyone. I wanted to gather some outside opinions and perspectives on a long-standing issue in my relationship. 29M, 25F. This is a lengthy post, so I apologize in advance. I'd like to begin by stating that my girlfriend is undoubtedly one of the most genuine, kind, brilliant, loyal, loving, caring individuals in the world. She possesses remarkable values and morals, and is truly one of the best people I have ever known. She is incredibly attractive and does not lack in the appearance department at all. We have been together for roughly 4 years, and my girlfriend embodies everything I seek in a future spouse. However, I am becoming increasingly worried about her eating disorder. For some context, she was raised with one parent being a weight loss physician and the other being morbidly obese until recently. My girlfriend shared that when she was young as 9, her mother discussed dieting because she was starting to gain some weight. Her mother also made remarks such as, "Make sure you take care of yourself so you don't end up looking like me." And one of my girlfriend's brothers would constantly call her fat and ugly, even though she was not. At one point in her life, she consumed so little food that she stopped getting her periods. Before my girlfriend and I started dating, I consistently grew up slim, about 6 feet tall, 140 pounds, until I reached 19 years of age. I played soccer extensively as a child, so I was always very thin. I joined a gym at 19 and absolutely fell in love with the experience. I enjoyed how it transformed my appearance and improved how I felt, among other benefits. It positively impacted every facet of. I became more disciplined, had increased energy, and greater confidence, among other improvements. Fast forward to today, and I am much healthier at 190 pounds with 12% body fat. I have lifted weights for 6 times a week religiously since I began gym training, only taking breaks for injuries, illness, or vacations. The gym truly transformed my life. I completed high school with a 2.2 GPA and had no clear direction. I began working out during my first year at college, starting at a community college, transferring to a state university, and ultimately earning my bachelor's and master's degrees in a STEM field, while only receiving 3 BTECs throughout my educational career. I am now earning a good salary and am quite successful in my career. I genuinely believe that had I not joined the gym, I would have struggled to turn my life around. When I met my girlfriend, she weighed approximately 120 pounds at 5'3". She has quite large breasts, so I believe much of her weight is attributed to that. I never perceived her to be unhealthy or anything when we first began our relationship. However, I quickly realized that my girlfriend only consumed one small meal daily and did not recognize how this was affecting her until I focused on my own nutrition and noticed the difference in my physical and mental health after properly fueling my body. Before I improved my nutrition, I frequently experienced brain fog, constipation, low energy, midday crashes, heightened anxiety, trouble sleeping, and more. My girlfriend started going to the gym with me shortly after we began dating and adopted my routine of lifting 6 times a week and walking more than 4 miles daily, 7 days a week. Before she began this routine, she often mentioned experiencing brain fog, low energy, anxiety, and difficulty sleeping, almost all symptoms I encountered when I wasn't eating enough. After some time working out with me, I noticed that she began exhibiting more of those symptoms, likely due to her increased physical activity paired with inadequate food intake, only about 1 or 2 small meals a day, resulting in her being severely undernourished. I recognized she had an eating disorder fairly early on because she would occasionally break down over her feelings of being overweight, frequently pinch the skin on her stomach, express her fear of gaining weight, or her dislike for how she looked after eating, which caused her to bloat. These emotional episodes typically occurred around the time she was premenstrual or about to start her period. To complicate matters, she did gain a few pounds, only about 5 over time, and her parents began making comments about her appearance, such as, "Your legs are looking fuller," or "You look fit," alongside remarks like, "Don't get too big, you don't want to look like a man." When dining out, her mother would also make comments like, "Are you going to eat all of that?" Or, "Wow, I can't believe you ate all of that." My girlfriend would return home after such occasions and voice her concerns about feeling overweight, wanting to lose weight, etc., even though she is not remotely close to being overweight. I have tried to encourage her to disregard her parents' comments, asserting that they do not understand what they are saying. She's currently studying for the medical college admission test and working part-time around 16 hours weekly. Fast forward to today, and she is nearly always experiencing brain fog, claims she must take Adderall to maintain focus while studying, struggles with sleep, feels anxious frequently, and more. She also gets sick often, and even minor disturbances like a bad night's sleep completely disrupt her the following day. I noticed these issues and began voicing my worries about her not consuming enough food, especially given her high physical activity level and the mental demands of her studies. I care deeply for her and am attempting to be a positive influence on her journey toward living a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life. I have tried to explain that given her mental workload and physical exercise level, She needs to consume more. She expresses her fears of gaining weight, her concerns about looking masculine, her dislike for bloating, and her anxiety about how her parents or friends will react to her changes, even if their comments are intended as compliments. She also mentions discomfort due to frequent constipation, which I genuinely believe stems from inadequate food intake for regular bowel movements. She consumes roughly 1,800 calories daily, at most 2,000. But for someone as active as she is both physically and mentally, I sincerely doubt that is adequate, and I have attempted to educate her on this. I am concerned about the long-term effects this behavior may have on her, as well as its implications for our relationship and future family. I love her and genuinely desire to be with her in the long term, but I fear for her health in the coming years and how it will affect her, us, and our family. At just 25, I don't believe that small issues like a poor night's sleep should completely derail her day, nor should she be falling ill every month or two. This concerns me, especially when considering scenarios like when we may have children, particularly because every parent I've met says they don't sleep much during the first year after their baby is born. She is also prone to forgetfulness, and minor inconveniences seem to overwhelm her. Additionally, I worry that her relationship with food might impact our hypothetical children. I want our children to understand the importance of a well-balanced diet and proper nutrition, not to restrict themselves out of fear of gaining weight or avoiding certain foods due to concerns over bloating. I am beginning to feel drained by the need to constantly reassure my girlfriend that she is not fat, is not ugly, will not look like a man, and by hearing her express concerns about her frequent illnesses, poor sleep quality, and needing to fill in the gaps whenever she has not had adequate rest or is dealing with constipation, among other issues. She has sought therapy in the past, but has since stopped. I am just genuinely worried about the long-term repercussions her relationship with food could have on her, our relationship, and our prospective family. I know that my current approach has not yielded the desired results, so I am looking for external perspectives on how best to navigate this situation. In summary, my girlfriend possesses everything I could ever want, yet I am concerned about the effects her eating disorder may have on her long-term health, our relationship, and our future family. I am seeking advice on the best way to approach this situation to encourage her to take better care of herself for her own sake and for our future. Story 3. Me, M24, and this girl, F21, have been talking for a year. I'm just casual while she's expecting so much. This would be a lengthy tale filled with emotions. So, to summarize, I am a 24-year-old male who has been communicating with a 21-year-old female for over a year now. We have only met in person once. It all began in January 2024. I had been single for about 2 years following a traumatic relationship, which I am somewhat thankful for because, without that past experience, I would not have learned to love myself and concentrate on my career. I would not have been able to create and launch my own business, nor would I have learned to show love to myself, and I would not have understood the importance of prioritizing family and friends. However, she reached out to me and I responded. She was very cute and I found her appealing. From the beginning, I made it clear that I could not commit to a relationship. I just wanted to try talking and see how things evolved and flowed. As months went by, we encountered various issues. The first issue was that she was clingy while I was not. She also knew about my ex, which led her to constantly compare our relationship with my past one. I explained that everything I did with my ex was a learning experience in a positive way. I had been obsessed with my ex in a very toxic and unhealthy relationship, where my entire world revolved around her. Consequently, she would compare how I treated my ex to how I treat her. There are valuable lessons I have learned, and my values and beliefs regarding liking someone have changed. I can honestly say that I am now less clingy and more independent, not just with her, but with everyone. I have learned to enjoy my own company without feeling the need for someone else. I had simply decided to give this a chance with her, expecting a relaxed, casual interaction, and nothing too serious or committed. To be honest, she was exceedingly sweet, but I had already established boundaries, as I do not have the time to be excessively clingy and sweet with her, given that being in a relationship is not currently a priority for me. I communicated that I genuinely wanted to explore things and see where life leads us. In terms of responsibilities, I have a great deal on my plate that I am truly committed to. First and foremost, I have started a business, which is my primary focus. I have goals and aspirations I wish to achieve, which is why I am so dedicated to this venture, as I recognize it is growing. Additionally, I am involved in our family businesses, which my parents have entrusted to me to manage after I graduated with a degree in business administration. Therefore, my days are fully occupied with business matters. I made all of this clear to her, but assured her that I would still be willing to communicate and explore everything. Again, as time went on, we continued to face issues, especially since we had only met once. It is a 2 to 3 hour drive from my place to hers, which complicates matters, particularly as I grew up with strict parents. The cultural norms differ significantly from those in the United States when one turns 18. My parents, however, have not been an obstacle in this situation. They permit me to talk to girls as long as I prioritize my business over a romantic relationship, which I have consistently done. While I may come across as selfish, I genuinely prioritize my career over love following my last relationship. If I were to reflect on whether I am genuinely interested in her, I would affirm that I am, although not to the extent that I would lose sight of my own goals and aspirations. I am attracted to her. Otherwise, I know I would not have maintained a year of conversation, a year of attempting to make everything work despite the challenges we have faced. However, this is where our problems intensified. 1. She exhibits retroactive jealousy, constantly comparing everything I did with my ex to my interactions with her. She frequently questions why I would meet my ex in secret, why I would have late-night calls with her, and why I was obsessed with my ex rather than her. To her, everything ties back to my past. I can confidently state that I have moved on from my ex. While the trauma and scars may linger, I have truly learned from those experiences. I realize I should have ended things with her at this point, but I was still willing to try since I now have established boundaries and wanted to find a way to make things work. 2. Another issue is her extreme jealousy, which extends to singers and celebrities. For example, she expressed intense anger when I watched a performance by Sabrina Carpenter. 3. She reacted furiously when I viewed adult content. Despite her sending me some explicit images, she expected me not to watch such material again and labeled me a cheater for doing so. 4. She insisted on having nightly calls to ensure I was not talking to anyone else. 5. She desired me to engage in activities I find impossible, such as visiting her often or going on vacations, despite my commitments to my career. I mentioned that I could manage this once I am stable in my career, but at present, I am still focused on achieving my goals. I am looking for someone who can support me and not expect too much from me, which is why I expressed my reluctance to enter a relationship right now and preferred to just talk initially, as I recognized I cannot fulfill many relationship expectations. 6. She jokingly stated that if she were to catch me with another woman, she would report me to her father and hire someone to harm me. 7. I believe all these concerns arise from her previous relationship, during which her ex was unfaithful. It seems she has not fully processed this experience, as her traumas are impacting what we have. I wonder if others who have experienced infidelity feel that their past should not interfere with a new relationship. Personally, I believe that regardless of previous betrayals, trust issues need to be resolved independently before starting fresh with someone new. For instance, her jealousy and trust issues should first be addressed on her part before she expects me to adjust. I also have traumas I am working through and do not expect her to be my healer, as I understand that no one should serve as an emotional outlet. I made it clear that I wanted to work on myself before fully committing to her, and I hope she would prioritize her own healing before committing to me as well. We had a discussion and argument where she mentioned how her female friends' boyfriends would take them out of town, something I am unable to do. I have clearly communicated that my family and career remain my top priorities. I currently have no plans to go on vacations since I am fully committed to my career. After a year and months filled with discussions and attempts to find common ground, I finally managed to carve out some time for her this February and intend to visit her, hoping this will change everything. I want her to feel valued because she believes I do not care about her since I have not visited, when in truth, I am preoccupied with my career. and the 2 to 3 hour drive is significant, especially considering travel time back. It does not fall on the 14th, as Valentine's Day is a busy period for our businesses. Therefore, the only practical date I could arrange is the 19th, which has upset her because she claims it's no longer Valentine's Day. Nevertheless, I have genuinely made an effort to free up that day, as it is the sole opportunity I have to travel such a distance for a belated Valentine's date. I sincerely hope that this visit will alter her perception, while also shifting my own feelings since I have become disenchanted due to our ongoing disputes. I believe this will ultimately determine whether we choose to continue our interactions or not. Yet, if I could rewind time, I would opt not to respond to her initially. I recognize that what we have experienced over the past year has been toxic and unhealthy. A year has already passed, and I wish not to squander any more time. I am hopeful that everything will fall into place even if I know I cannot fully commit at this moment. She is also a student, and I would prefer she concentrate on her studies while I focus on my career. I would appreciate your thoughts. What if I genuinely lack interest after our upcoming date this February? I feel compelled to continue because I do not want to hurt her, knowing how much she cares for me. I also fear her potential reaction if I decide to end things. Story 4. I, 19F, need advice on how to move forward or break up with my BF, 19M. I apologize if I am making any mistakes, as I have never posted on Reddit before. I truly do not know what to do, and I have absolutely no one to discuss this with, so I am creating this post for advice and support. I, 19 female, believe I have fallen out of love with my current boyfriend, 19 male, and I feel incredibly lost. To begin with, he tends to sleep most of the day and becomes upset whenever I mention it. He feels that I should not be bothered since he lacks other activities, but I wish I did not have to receive a text hours later when I know he has either slept the entire day or has been playing video games all day. He has only had one job during our nearly 2-year relationship. That job lasted for less than a month, by the way, while I have held 3 positions. He hardly contributes financially, which may seem shallow, but I wish I could visit him and go on dates without draining my finances. It also makes me feel as though I'm not worth even a minimum wage job. I worked at perhaps the worst job imaginable for very little pay just so I could afford to see him once a month. Since quitting that job, I can only see him every few months, which would not be a problem if he actually communicated consistently. As I mentioned earlier, he enjoys sleeping and playing video games. Since I've expressed my concerns, he will sleep until around the afternoon, then do whatever he likes and call me when he is about to go to bed. Sometimes he even hangs up on me to go spend time with his younger sister's friend instead. I feel as though I should not be upset since I understand that being on the phone is not enjoyable. But I simply wish that, during the 1 or 2 hours we do communicate, he would be more engaged in our conversation and not leave me for a 14-year-old to go play Pokémon. He literally has all day to call and text me, and I wish it did not impede on my time. I just wish he wanted to talk to me as much as I want to engage with him. Recently, he has been sleeping all day and then staying up for a few hours at night. We have not spoken on the phone in days, and I have been responding to him with one-word answers. This pattern seems to repeat every few months when he appears somewhat depressed, and during these times we hardly communicate. It truly makes me feel as though he only reaches out when it is convenient for him. Another issue is that he voted for Donald Trump, which honestly disgusts me. He deceived me for a while and then confessed while we were intoxicated, leading to a major argument. He frequently claims he does not care about politics and that it should not ruin relationships, but truthfully, it is a significant concern for me. I do not want to be with someone who lacks the intellectual curiosity to read an article and form his own opinions without external influence. I may not be the most well-informed person when it comes to politics, but I know enough not to support someone as reprehensible as him. I voiced my feelings, which resulted in a brief breakup. After the argument, I was still very intoxicated and busy packing my belongings, and I said some terrible things to him. I told him I wished he would die, similar to what some former friends had told him before. I did not even recall saying that until it was mentioned the following day, and I immediately apologized profusely, which he accepted. We reconciled after the brief breakup, Yet I still feel incredibly ashamed and disgusted by my words, and I genuinely do not understand why he would want to remain with me after that, to be honest. I feel like the only reason we are still together is that we are each other's first loves. I truly do not know what to do and would greatly appreciate some external advice. I feel so conflicted because he is my first love and my first everything, and I do not want to leave him. It seems that our political differences are the most significant obstacle, and it devastates me because to me, he represents my other half. He has done such kind things for me, like bringing me soup when I was unwell, helping to clean up after me when I was sick, and he has always been enamored with me while respecting my boundaries. He was there for me when I had to end my friendships with certain people, and he remained by my side despite the terrible insults I directed at him following our argument regarding Trump. I feel so torn and heartbroken. By the way, I have previously brought all of this up with him, but he simply states that I should not expect him to change, and he refuses to do so. I love him with every ounce of my heart, and he has been my support and inspiration for such a long time, and I feel so frightened at the thought of being without him. I apologize for the length of this post and for any mistakes, as I am crying while writing this, but I could desperately use some guidance on how to proceed with him. I know that I should probably break up with him, but is there anything I can do to repair our relationship? I feel as though we are ideal for one another, but I simply cannot be with someone who believes Trump is acceptable. I really do not want to end things with the only person I have ever been with, and besides, we are essentially each other's best friends. He knows things that no one else knows, and it just feels terribly wrong to leave him. I truly need some external perspective because I do not want to throw away such a long relationship that I might be able to fix, or perhaps I could fix myself if I am the issue here. In summary, I have been in a nearly 2-year-long relationship with my boyfriend, who sleeps excessively, has only held one job, and voted for Donald Trump. He is my first love, and I do not know how to proceed, leaving me feeling very lost. Any advice would be appreciated.